Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by the lovely Bree Tucker.
Why, hello, everybody. How are you?
Bree's a little less peppy today because she is dealing with some back pain that I continuously call her out on to everybody that we have an interview with.
Well, Bree is coming to you live from her bed with pillows. But hey, not even a back injury will keep me from this podcast. We are
Yeah,
here and we are excited.
we are so excited because these two people that we are interviewing, they were recommended to us by our friend Ned Johnson. And every time we bring Ned Johnson on the podcast, oh my gosh, he has just a wealth of knowledge in terms of motivation. So when he recommended The Disengaged Teen, the book, to us, we were like, yes, definitely. And I've been reading it, and it is, guys, you have to go get this book. You have to get this book, and you're going to see why right after our interview with the lovely Jenny Anderson and Rebecca Winthrop. So let me introduce them to you right now. Jenny Anderson is an award-winning journalist, author, and speaker with more than 25 years of experience. Her work has appeared in some of the world's leading publications, including the New York Times, where she was on staff for 10 years, Time, The Atlantic, and Quartz. Rebecca Winthrop is a leading global authority on education. She is the director of the Center for Universal Education at Brookings and an adjunct professor at Georgetown University. She is a highly sought after advisor and speaker, including by parent networks, school leaders, the White House, the United Nations, and Fortune 500 companies. And they have come together and they have written a book called The Disengaged Teen, which we are going to be discussing today. So let's get on with the show. Okay, here we go. Welcome, Rebecca and Jenny, to the podcast. We are so happy to have you in two very different time zones than our own. Jenny started the conversation. Jenny, you're in London right now.
I am in London. Hi, thank you for having us. So happy to be here.
And Rebecca, we didn't ask, where are you?
I am based in Washington, D.C., and it's lovely to be talking with you guys.
Oh yeah, so we have total East Coast and UK going on with us today,
I
Bree.
love this. And then we're bringing in the West Coast, West Side.
West side, definitely. So your book, The Disengaged Teen, like I am not to waste no time because I want to get into it immediately. I am not kidding when I have been sharing your information with all of our balanced community members. I go on live every morning and I'm like, guys, you have to hear these modes of engagement. And I actually asked them, I explained the modes of engagement to them and asked them to identify what their kids were in. And so let's back up a little bit because you saw a problem with kids and education. Can you describe the problem that you saw?
Sure. We really wanted to know why kids don't love school. And we know they don't love school because we asked them. We have a partner, Trans.
And they are happy to tell you that too, right?
They
Any
sure
team.
are.
Very forthcoming.
And this is not news to any parent in your network. But in third grade, 75% of kids say they love school. And by 10th grade, it's 25%. And lo and behold, how you feel about school really influences how much effort and motivation and engagement you put into it. So it actually matters how kids feel when they're in school. And it's a huge problem. And a lot of kids are deeply disengaged, especially once they hit middle school and high school.
Yeah, and
I
I have to
agree.
say, the word engagement, by the way, gives me a little PTSD from being a teacher because when I was a fifth grade teacher, and this is how they would evaluate us in our teacher evaluations. The principal would come in for one 30-minute lesson. They would look around the room and they would give me a percentage of how many kids were quote unquote engaged. And what I love about your book is that
I see why you have PTSD, by the way. And I see why we're validating for you.
yes,
I can see where this is going. Keep going.
yeah, because the principal could not tell if they were engaged because you have discovered these 4 modes of engagement that kids are in when they are learning. Can we go through those 4 ones and can you explain those to us?
Sure. And can I just build on your point, which is the reason that they can't tell in their 30-minute, visit to you is that engagement is so many things. It's how kids think, it's how they feel, it's how they behave, and it's how they initiate. And that is going to be very tricky to see in one 30-minute session. So I will dive in on the mode. So we found that kids show up for their learning in 4 dynamic modes. These aren't identities or labels. We're not pigeonholing kids. Kids can move around them all sorts of ways, but sometimes they get stuck. So mode 1 is passenger mode. That's where kids are coasting along, doing the bare minimum. More than 50% of kids said that they show up to school this way. They are kind of calling it in, but not really learning a lot. Resistor mode is when they're withdrawing and acting out. These kids are often dubbed the problem children. Achiever mode is where kids are seeking to get gold stars in everything that's put in front of them. They are striving for perfection often, and often at all costs. And explorer mode is the top of the engagement mountain. This is where we want all kids. This is where curiosity meets drive. This is where kids dig in. They don't give up. They've got resilience, and they've got an internal sense of why they're doing what they're doing. They know how to set a goal for themselves, and they know how to pick different strategies and then change strategies if they need to. That's explorer mode. And that's our hope, is that parents and teachers help kids have as many explorer modes moments as possible.
Okay, I think I'm going to really seriously need your help because I have 2 teens. I have a senior and a junior. And listening to you say those modes, I have seen them be in the first 3. One of them, it moves back and forth between the first and the second, and
The
another one is
resistor and the achiever.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know exactly which one I'm talking about. And
Oh, yeah.
then I have another one who's stuck in the gold star one, who I think
Mhm.
might be kind of starting to move into 1 a little bit because it's senioritis. I'll say senioritis. But I don't think I've had any in mode 4 since, you talked about earlier, since like 5th grade maybe. So that's interest I okay, I am
You
teach
can't
me. I am a
you can
sponge.
tell, and Jenny and I also have 2 teens. She has 2 girls, I have 2 boys, and we experimented on them in addition to all the wide-ranging research we did.
I
And you
use my
can
kids as
tell
experimentation
As much
too.
as you
Right.
love it, but yes.
Just when you have living guinea pigs, what can I say?
Yes,
Yes.
Oh,
it is.
please go
You
on.
really can tell when kids have been in explore mode in school, because when they come home and you say, "Hi, sweetie, how was your day?" or how, the basic
Mhm.
opening inquiry, instead of saying fine, boring, whatever, good, okay, they just start voluntarily, without any prompting, talking about something that they learned. So I had this experience when my we were eating meat and he was like, blah, blah, up to like meat processing, and he would not shut up about it. And I was like, wow, he had been given an opportunity not just to read the book, but like go out and do some like hands-on experimenting around it or concepts in it. And it's really obvious. It just doesn't happen much. We get so used to as parents, and sort of what can we do? We feel
Yeah.
powerless.
We see it, and then it's almost like we sometimes settle, right? I don't know if settle is the right word, Joanne. Like, what do you think? Like,
It's
we
like
just
expected almost, because you're
yeah,
told that your teens are just going to be blasé and it's going to be a hard few years. And so you kind of hunker down and try to just go through it without really considering if what they are studying right now in school or what they're learning right now in school is actually interesting and engaging to them. Right now, I know a lot of parents like have the question about like, how do I get my kids to actually do their schoolwork? And I've always seen that as just such a complicated question, because it's not just about making kids do the work, it's so much more. And I want to find out both of your answers to this right after this. So, right before the break, we were talking about this question that many parents have: how do I make my kids do their schoolwork? I personally think they're asking the wrong question, but I want to hear both of your ideas about that and your take.
So I'll jump in. I think, as we mentioned, a lot of kids, over 50%, are in passenger mode. They are sort of coasting along. And these are often the kids we, as parents, we find it very frustrating to get them to do their homework. And they're very happy to be with their friends, or maybe play video games, do other stuff. But when it comes to doing their homework, it's really hard. And we do the thing that all parents do out of a sense of love and frustration and despair, which is nag them. And we show in the book, and we kind of know in our heart of hearts that nagging doesn't work. There's this great study where like we stick teenagers in brain scanners and have the voice of their mom nagging them, and basically the problem solving part of their brain shuts down. So we know this intuitively, but we should remind ourselves in the moment that nagging really isn't going to get the trick done, because what we're trying to do is get them to build that self-drive and that motivation. So counterintuitively, honestly, the thing And you're right, not everything works for everyone. So I don't want to promise a silver bullet, but surprisingly, giving these kids more autonomy to make more decisions about doing their homework, how they do their homework, when they're going to do their homework, when they plan on getting their homework done by, having that latitude versus us just nagging them to get it done, that is what ultimately produces some bad consequences, right? Some negative feedback, maybe from a teacher, maybe from school, and a feedback mechanism by which they get to feel that and then see if they respond differently, right? And we do have to help them make a plan. We just shouldn't be their plan. So we shouldn't be telling them, you have to get this done by, you know, by dinner, or you're not going to get any video games afterwards. It's much more of a, what's your plan for getting it done?
And okay, as a recovering nagger or someone who fights the impulse
We are
to
too,
nag.
by the way. We are too.
We are
We
too.
all do it. Yeah, it's so
Okay.
hard.
I love it. Okay. So what do you do when, you've been trying to do this and they give you their plan, or their plan is, I don't know, I'll figure it out. And you're like, that's not a plan.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I do think
Like,
so
their plan is going to fail. Let's
yeah.
just say that.
So if you know their plan is going to fail, but it's a real plan,
Okay.
let them do it. If it's, I'll figure it out, that's not a plan. So I was a terrible nagger, and because I talked about my passenger mode boy who's lovely and smart and fabulous, but total coaster, self-avowed passenger. We were just getting into it, and it was just so annoying. Like, a lot of the day was like, did you do your homework? Did you do your homework? Do it before dinner. Do it before. Okay, you didn't. Okay, do it after dinner. You didn't do your homework. You have to go to bed. You need sleep. And like, it was me sort of spinning out of control, and him. The more I spun out, the more
Check
he
out.
backed away and was like, I
Yeah.
want nothing to do with this. So I didn't sort of, in the research process, pilot this, like, make a plan, which was like, okay, how much do you have? How long? Like, and the truth was, he didn't know how to make a plan. He didn't really know. You had to think about how long it would take and then put some times against it. Like, he would just be like, okay, I'll do it after dinner. And I was like, okay, no, no, no. Like, what do you need to do? How much time? And then see what you have to do ever since you get home from school. And then, like, literally write it down on a piece of paper, like in your little, like, we got him a little planner. Like, so it took a couple weeks of, like, we would call scaffolding. It's Joanne, as an educator.
Yep.
And it has made a difference. He's a lot more self-motivated. He's not like a revolutionized into an achiever, but he gets fairly good grades, and he's learned some good executive function skills that he's going to need to get through the world.
And Rebecca just mentioned one thing that I think is so important, which is not just having him make the plan, but also recognizing, maybe predicting a little bit some of the obstacles that might get in the way. So what might get in the way of you finishing this plan, and how are we going to deal with that when it comes up? So you're anticipating a little bit. You're going to want to get a snack, and then you get a snack, and then you play with the dog, and then you play with the dog, and then you're at the front door, and you kind of want to, then maybe you even want to clean your room because you're getting so good at procrastinating at this point. So it's like helping them reflect on that and then build plans around that.
It's amazing how, like, the desire to clean your room happens when you're procrastinating on something that you don't want to do.
We all do
I
it.
get that. I get that way for sure. So what I'm hearing so far is that you need to give your kids autonomy. You need to give them choices. And you also, like, are there to kind of, like, back them up in the total planning stage of it. Because I have to tell you one thing with teens, and even like tweens as well, even though both my children tell me that me saying the word tween is really cringy, and people don't say that anymore, Mom. But
The adults do, but okay.
adults do. I called my son a tweenager in public, and he died. But
I'm
he's
coming down
11.
for him. I might be with him on that one.
Is there
11.
another, wait, is
anyway,
there
they
another
die.
name?
That I
Is there
know of.
another name we're supposed to be using?
You could ask him to make it up. You could start it here. We could start it here. We could
Yeah.
have a new youth identified
I'll be like-
term. Let us know, Joanne, when he comes up with
We
it.
could just
We'll
say
all-
bruh.
I mean, preteens is a thing, I guess.
But they could be so confident. They could, like, tell you to your face, Mom, I got this. Like, you do not need to help me. And it's totally, like, you could just see it just goes downhill and downhill. So I love, Rebecca, how you said, like, sit down with them, make a plan. the fact that to cue parents in, if you're listening right now, one of the like little roadblocks, little bumps in the road might be that they don't know to put times with their plans. So know that coming in when you sit down with your teen. With these modes of engagement, like something that I experienced as a teacher, and the reason I was like, oh my gosh, like I was right reading your book, you gave me so much validation, is because every year before testing season, I felt like I was just constrained as a teacher. Cuffs around my back. They made me stay to the curriculum. I had to write these lesson plans on my desk. I had so many behavior problems in my classroom when I was being restrained to that method of teaching, versus after testing season where they didn't check in at all. We had 6 weeks. They didn't even care because the test scores were in. And I got to design my own stuff, in which I had my kids do a digital storytelling project where we taught them video editing and they did a science thing. They were so into it.
fun.
Well, they were so into it, so engaged, no behavior problems whatsoever, kids
Totally.
taking agency and authority. So I guess my question is I just want like, I hope that you can give me a little hope. What can we do for our kids if they are in school environments like
Mhm.
this, where the teacher's hands are basically behind their backs? Like, how can we get them engaged in learning?
And this is the reason we wrote this book, to be for parents and then secondarily for teachers and education leaders. Because parents actually have a huge role to play when motivating your kids. When parents and educators are on the same page and have trust, those schools are 10 times more likely to be improving. So we just don't realize how much of a role we have to play. So we can't always, as an individual parent, change our child's school. That's a systemic problem. And frankly, we always say this is not a teacher problem. Teachers are squished in the middle from a bad system and also pressure from parents. They're squished from below. And so parents can be that bridge that kids need. They can talk about the content of kids learning, not just the outcomes and the grades. They can model the thrill of and excitement of their own curiosity, which is actually contagious, and kids will bring it back to the classroom. They can talk to the kids about the skills they're learning, like, hey, I know it's testing season. I guess you're really having to focus. I know it might be a little boring, not so much fun, but hey, I just had, those are great skills of like really cognitive discipline and almost like building up your physical strength to sit and finish something. I just had to do that. I just had budget season at work, whatever it is, make a comparison. I had to sit for like 3 straight days and like get through this. I personally find budgets boring. So, not that this
Yes,
is a
Same.
personal
Same.
example or anything. So
Yeah.
you can really, help your kids through the different times and periods when teachers are constrained, and they can explore muscles and become explorers outside of school.
So one of the things we talk a lot about is really leaning into their interests. You just identified this, right? You did something in class and they were completely engaged. Every kid wants to learn how to do video editing. That is just so like such a perfect way of getting them engaged. I think the parental sort of equivalent of that is like, what is your kid interested in, and help them develop that sort of passion and interest in that. So you get that positive flywheel spinning, which is, I'm interested, I dig in, I get better, I want more, I do more, I get even better, and then I want to do more. As Rebecca said, that can spill over, right? And what you're trying to do is energize your kid and give them the feeling of that spark and that motivation and that fire. And once they have that feeling, you can say, hey, that can happen anywhere. Like it might not be happening for you in math right now. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen in math in another time, but you can build that spark anywhere, right? And so it's communicating. We sometimes think these things are very obvious to kids, and of course they're not. They don't know yet, right, that can spill over. But I think oftentimes when kids aren't performing in school, we take their interests away, right,
Mm-hmm.
instead of leaning into them. And that might be what they need to develop the motivation and the energy to kind of get going.
Yes, absolutely. I want to talk about extracurriculars in regards to that, because it seems like extracurriculars would be a great place for kids to
Absolutely.
explore those interests. But I also see that parents are really overloaded with the amount of extracurriculars their kid has. And so I want to get into that right after this. Okay. Okay, Jenny and Rebecca, let's talk about extracurricular activities, because I see them having like there's two sides. There's the kids who are allowed to explore their interests in extracurricular activities. And then there are the kids who are told to do extracurricular activities because it'll look good on a college application. I want to hear your take on this.
I think Jenny and I would argue that go deep, not broad. Every single college admissions officer has a red flag up when kids have some interest, and then junior year, all of a sudden they're engaged in like 17 different clubs, and they know it's not authentic or real, and they're actually not looking for that. They're looking for deep, sort of real, authentic commitment and impact. So that's one. So that can alleviate, because it is very stressful for parents to try to do right by their kid, and that's what we're told. And you can all take a deep breath and relieve that worry. Like my kids, I actually restrict them. I was like, you can do two extracurriculars. You can do one sporty physical thing and one other thing, and that's it. First of all, you need sleep. And by the way, I know I work. I can't be running around like a crazy person to all these things. So they each do, like my son does track and he does piano, and my other son does parkour, and he does like Dungeons and Dragons and all this creative stuff. So, and that's fine. That's plenty. And the other piece about extracurriculars that I think is really important that Jenny talked about before the break is the benefits will be multifold if it's really your kid's spark.
Gosh.
So help them find their spark. We know that only 30% of kids who are getting C's and D's get access to like extracurricular in the arts versus 60% of kids getting A's. So when your kids' grades start slipping, and this is true for extracurriculars and sports and other things, when your kids' grades start slipping, one of the things that they need is an avenue that they are excited about, that they're good at. And schools pull kids out of extracurriculars when they start failing academically, or not failing, but slipping. And parents do too. And we think we're doing the right thing, and it's actually almost the wrong thing to do. And it actually gets kids into the resistor mode faster. They need something they're excited about. It builds learning muscles. It builds motivation and engagement. It builds an identity and a self-confidence that they then can bring back into the real world and in school. And Jenny, what would you add?
Yeah, I think in particular with kids stuck in achiever mode or in achiever mode, I think it is really hard because they want to do more because they have internalized that more is always better. So this is the mode where I think this can really become a problem. I have this in my own life, both personally and my eldest daughter. And I think really it is our job as their parents to help them take the foot off the accelerator. And the challenge here is the system is insatiable. I know what Rebecca said is completely true with the college admissions officer, and yet everybody
does it,
including teachers, and from, they're doing their best too. They want the best for kids. I think they're opening up avenues, and a lot of parents think the same thing. More is better. And it's not if it's going to break your kid. And so you have to be really honest about where your kid is and how much more they can take on. I actively discourage taking on more things. I can tell you honestly that my kid is doing way more than I wish she was, but it's less than she would be had I not been there as her buffer. And I say to her, it is my job to keep you well rested and safe. And if you do more, you will do more to such a standard that you could break. And I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen. So it is that I love you and I'm going to protect you. And you have to stay firm because you're really bucking the system. You're bucking the more is better. And you're bucking your kid who's telling you, I want to do more. And I know it sounds like we're contradicting ourselves, saying like, listen to your kids, but don't listen to your kids. Like when you see that they're not, doing something that's good for them, you kind of have to be that. And I've gotten a lot of pushback, and I've gotten a lot of like, you don't understand. And I'm like,
my gosh, that is a broken record in Joanne's and my house, but you don't get it.
Mom, you've never been a teenager in 2020. You've never been it, Mom.
I often say I probably don't, but based on what I know, I'm going to do what I think is best for you. But I acknowledge that I might not understand how they feel in that moment because I probably don't.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like there's been many conversations I've had with my daughter because they have this thing now called the AP medallion, where it's like they take like all of these AP classes, they have to take a certain amount, and then they graduate with their AP medallion. And this is something that, and I see Rebecca, you rolled your eyes there and everything. This is the same way I feel about it.
It's the first time hearing about this. What is this?
Well, the AP medallion, she wanted to take all of these AP classes that she wasn't interested in at all. Like she was like, oh, I need to take AP government. I need to take this. Because it is going to quote unquote look good for colleges. And we were sitting down and I'm like, listen, I don't think colleges really care about your AP medallion. I want you just to be interested in enjoying life and not stressed out. And there was a lot of pushback to that and a lot of mom, you don't know what you're talking about to that. And I doubted myself every step of the way. If any parents listening to this and they have their gut feeling that their kids are just taking on too much, trust that gut feeling. And then also make sure you go get this book, The Disengaged Teen, because it is going to validate so much for you. We always ask the same question to all of our guests, Jenny and Rebecca. What are you looking forward to right now?
I'll start. This is Jenny. I'm looking forward to two things. I'm going to cheat and give you two. One is we launched the book in the UK last week, and I am doing a small book launch party at our local independent bookstore. And I'm so happy to thank the community that supported me through the writing of this book with the carpools and the feeding of my kids and the collecting of my kids and the reminding me that the thing that needed to be done tomorrow was actually getting done, often from another country. Anyways, so it's so exciting to me to be able to thank that community. And also, Rebecca and I are going to ASU GSB, which is a big conference next week. And we are speaking on a big stage, and I'm just excited. It's a really dynamic conference with lots of people there. And I think it'll be fun to bring our message there. So I'm excited about those two things.
That's a lot of fun. Where is that conference?
San Diego.
That's even better.
Perfect. Yeah.
Get some great weather.
Come on
What
out,
about you?
down. Right.
What about you, Rebecca?
I'm excited to really think about what explore mode can look like when you use AI. Because at Brookings, we're really digging into how you use AI well, because at the moment, I'm really worried it's being used unwell in most education systems and for children's learning, but also just their development. And there's very little guidance on it. So we're really digging into that. And I just think this idea of like, we should use artificial intelligence to help kids create more explore moments is actually the central goal. So I'm super excited to sort of start really digging into that and hopefully being helpful to parents and educators.
I am so excited about that topic, Rebecca. I am a big like AI user. And
Too.
I love using it for creative problem solving because it gives you ideas that like
Yeah.
Helps you
you
move
would have
forward,
never
right? It like helps
thought
get
of. It
those.
helps.
Yeah.
It's like you amplified, but I could totally see how it could be used in the wrong way in an education setting or how
Yeah.
kids
It
are
could
seeing
be
TV.
used to create a lot more passenger mode kids.
Yeah.
So I'm
Coasting.
seeing that being done. So what I really want is for us to all band together as a society so it can help create more explore moments.
Yeah, my daughter was running for a student council executive officer and she had to do her campaign and she knew like a broad idea she wanted to do Gossip Girl. And so we went to AI and we're like, I want to do a Gossip Girl campaign. Here's what I want to do. Like, what other ideas do you have? Using brainstorming like that, it was really good for her and really I feel like she was in explore mode when she was doing
Totally.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter
Well,
just did
yeah.
did a CV for her first work experience, and I said, just type in everything that you do and you're interested in, and see what it does. And it came up with a really brilliant CV. And then I said, now you've got to rewrite the entire thing that's in your voice. And she was like, oh, okay. But she did, and I was like, see, it got all sorts of things wrong, and so it was like a really fun exercise because it was all about her, right? But it doesn't know her, and
Yeah.
so it was this great starting point. She had something to work with, and it really needed a full entire rewrite.
It's almost, but it's like the cure to writer's block because it's
Yeah.
almost easier doing the
It
rewrite
can
than it
it
is
can
coming up with
be
it.
it can be a great tool to unlock explore mode. Although I think at the moment it's used to shortcut and create passenger mode. There's a lot. Not always, but a lot. One of the interviews for the book was, I'm just going to give this as a general synopsis, was a high school student who was like, yeah, I use AI. I take an essay question, I break it into 3 parts, I run it through 3 different generative AI tools, then I bring it back and I run it through 3 different anti-plagiarism tools. I put it all together and I submit it. It takes like, half
No,
a day versus like 3 hours versus 3 days. It's great. I love it. So, and students are the number 1 user of ChatGPT.
that
I
is
Really?
believe
really
from OpenAI.
interesting. It's so interesting because it does have so many great benefits. And like I could talk about this forever, but I'll end it really soon. Because another great thing for teens, especially like teens who have a lot of anxiety, who may not know what to expect in situations, is job interviews, or
Yeah.
like that's something that we also had her use AI for, practicing for her executive officer interview with the school
Yeah.
principal. And it's like, ask me questions of like what you would ask for this position, so
And
that
it
she
does
could
it through
prepare.
voice. It doesn't, not even typing. You can talk to it and it can talk back. Like it is incredible if we
And here
can.
I am just using it to meal plan and come up with ideas for dinner.
There you
I
go.
know,
I
and
mean,
this
it
is
works for that
travel.
too.
Also good.
Travel,
Travel,
it's the
Yeah.
best. You don't
all the
ever have
Rebecca,
to.
things.
you introduced me to that. I hadn't thought of that one yet.
I'm like, I have to go here. I want to do here. I want to do 7 fun things over the next 3 days with my children's spring break. What do I do?
Yep. Do you
Hadn't
remember
even
how I did
thought of
Christina's
that.
birthday bucket list in Vegas, Bree? Of we took her.
Is that from AI? I didn't even know how
Yeah,
you
no, it's
came
from
up with it.
AI.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jenny and Rebecca, for joining us here. You have given us so much to think about in terms of your modes of engagement, and also how we can encourage our kids to be learners. Please go out and get Jenny and Rebecca's book, The Disengaged Teen. And thank you again.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us.
guys.